I'm Matt.
I'm Kerry.
We are the Stagmer brothers of Baltimore Knife and Sword. We're going to be building some of your favorite weapons, and some weapons that you've never seen before.
This is Man-at-Arms, REFORGED.
Recently at E3, they released some new game footage of the new God of War game where we see the return of Kratos.
I am hungry.
But this time, he's no longer wielding his Chaos Blades. He's got one big, badass axe, and we knew we were going to have to make it here on Man-at-Arms. We're going to start with some wrought iron. We're going to make that the body of the axe because it looks really crunchy in the gameplay footage. And then for the edge, we're going to use a Damascus billet, 15 and 20 and 1095. There's going to be a lot of intricate detail work at the end. So we're going to get right to it. I'm going to prep those pieces for the Damascus and then hand them off to Ilya, and he'll begin the forging. After prepping all of our pieces, John can now carefully weld them all together so that we can begin the forge welding. Now that our billet is prepped and it's up to temperature, it's time to let the madman go to work. After forge welding our billet, Ilya is going to draw it out a bit and cut that piece in half. He's then going to move on to flattening the wrought iron and cut 2 equal pieces of that as well. These 4 pieces will make up the body of our axe.
Now we're ready to do a little house construction. This is the floor, that's wrought iron. This is the wall, and this is the wall. Those are high carbon. They're going to be our front edge and back edge. And here's the roof, wrought iron again. Those pieces are going to be cleaned up and tack welded, and a handle is going to be welded so we can manage it. And then we're going to forge weld it gently in the press so that our little compartment right here is not distorted too much. That's going to become the socket for the handle. After that, the walls are going to be pinched out and become the front edge and the back edge.
Once he gets it drawn out just a tad, he's going to insert a rod into the eye of the axe so he can start forging that to shape a bit as well. So the roof on Ilya's little house came tumbling in a little bit last night. We had some tears in the wrought iron here and here. We could still go back and make this work, but because of our time limit, it's actually gonna save us a bunch of time to go ahead back a few steps. We're still gonna use wrought iron, we're still gonna use Damascus, but Ilya has a much better construction idea how to make this axe happen.
I flattened out and assembled some wrought iron strips. When this is welded up and assembled into a plate, it's time to proceed with the combining of the Damascus and the wrought iron and make the axe.
Now that the iron is sized correctly, Ilya can attach it to the Damascus billet. It may look weird that Ilya laid his piece of metal onto a 2x4, But the reason he did this was to prevent any oxygen getting to the surface of that metal, making it scale up and inhibiting his weld. He now lays the wrought iron on top of the Damascus paddle, goes to the hammer, and very gently forge welds it. You can see that you don't need brute strength for this process, it just has to be the perfect strike. Now that the preform for his axe is complete, he can move on to bending it over and forge welding the edge. You can see that he uses the dies on the power hammer to clamp down. As I hold from behind, he strikes and starts bending his U shape. You may notice that we have a little extra material on the edge of our axe now. Ilya basically did what would be called a reverse hot dog in the bun method, where he took a bill of Damascus that he layered with some more wrought iron and folded over the edge to give us some more mass. Ilya is now doing something that's not exactly safe. He's going to use a hand hammer underneath the power hammer dies very carefully to spread very specific areas of the axe. So the edge of the axe is now grown too large to fit in our welding forge. So what I'm doing is I'm keeping the charcoal forge hot. Ilya's modified our heat treating forge so we can get the axe in there a little bit and gain some temperature, but we really want to achieve our forge welding temperatures here. So we're going to be going back and forth between this forge, the power hammer, some hand forging, just to spread that edge out to get it right where we want it to be. Now time to forge weld in a Damascus bit. Ilya already prepped what will become the back edge. We now have to force that bit in so that it fits just right, take it out, bring everything up to temperature, and then do our forge weld. After it's forge weld, we can then draw it out a bit and it'll be ready for grinding. So we have the bulk of our axe now ground to shape. Ilya's really had to think outside the box to get this done. Guys who forge these axes on the regular have a ton, maybe several dozen different very specific tools to use during forging that we just don't have because we don't do it very often. And I'm pretty sure if the Vikings had themselves an Ilya, we'd probably all be speaking Old Norse right now, if you know what I mean. But my next step is to get this thing profiled, and then we'll move right on to edging. Now that the main body of our axe is now defined and ready to go, it's time to start on those langettes. Ilya's gonna forge those out of wrought iron. He's gonna move to the power hammer to get his basic shape, then he's gonna punch those 3 central holes that you see, and then we'll be able to attach them. So I did a lot of perimeter grinding last night on this axe. Got it to the right shape we're going for. Ilya forged these langettes out of wrought iron, and then he punched 3 holes on either side. The next step for me is to edge it. I already beveled some on the back blade here, but I haven't done anything on the front. I'm gonna go ahead and finish that up, and then I'll hand it off to Ilya, and he'll get those runes carved and inlaid.
The magic motif on Kratos' axe allows it to transform into an ice axe later on. So right now I'm using my simple W2 cutter and cutting in the design, so later on will be inlaid with nickel. Because the outside of this axe is all wrought iron, it cuts fairly easy. But once in a while I hit a hard spot of steel, so I have to be very careful.
Ilya's gonna use a hand engraver and just remove material and create tiny little trenches. Some of those trenches will be later filled with pure nickel, leaving a nice bright line. Others will leave plain, it'll give a nice dark line. He's been carving on the face of the axe now for about an hour. Most of the runes are set in place. He's now gonna start doing some of the inlay. After further looking into the axe handle and the gameplay footage, I noticed that it's a modern shape. This isn't really an historical axe. This handle is basically a fireman's axe handle. I'm gonna go ahead and lay that shape in. I got most of our shape sanded in here. I'm just gonna hand it off to Ferenc and he's gonna get the dragon carved in the end. I'm just gonna go ahead and check it and see how it fits to our head right now. Looks pretty good. I'm gonna have to shave a little more off the back and the front side, but I think that's about the right length. Whew, it's gonna be wicked.
So Matt has gotten us the hickory handle for the battle axe for God of War. He's done some light shaping around here. We've started to do some profile cuts, as you can see. I've done a light sketch on the top. I'm not going to sketch the profile on the front. I have a mental picture in my head of what this looks like dimensionally. I'm going to work off of that. There's not a whole lot of reference for what this really looks like. It's a brand new game. Things are not out yet. So we're going to do a close rendition of this. It's a primitive Viking style dragon, and we're going to follow those parameters. So you've seen us begin to lay out the artwork and the carving. We've started to carve in our lines, starting to get our pierce throughs like underneath of the tongue. We've actually finished this side so you can see the differences. It's finished in a way to retain that primitive look of carving. We're going to pass this out to Matt now. He's going to go ahead and finish the entire axe handle, and we're going to get her done.
Now that all our runes are carved in and the inlay is now complete, the last thing we have to do is heat treat our axe. Ilya heats it up in the forge and quenches just the edge into the oil. Not only does this harden the edge, but also gets our surfaces crusty again from where we sanded on them before. God of War, more like Gods of the Forge. We brought Kratos' new axe to life. I love it. Can't wait to see this thing smash stuff up in the demos.
Click here to subscribe, or click here to watch more episodes. Thanks for watching Man-at-Arms Reforged. We need to know what you want the guys to build, so tell us in the comments below what weapons you want to see next.